Good evening, and welcome to the Sound Off program. My name is Linda Kirker. I host the show, and thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm always appreciative to know that. I find out along the way when I'm out in the community, and several of you will speak up and say that you enjoy watching the show, and that makes me happy. So thank you for letting me know and for watching the show. I have a couple of things before I introduce my guest, a couple of things that I want to share with you. In the U.S. Congress, Representative Steve King has introduced a bill, H.R. 997. It is the English Language Unity Act. This bill requires all operations of the federal government to be conducted in English. And English is the glue that binds us together as a nation. In fact, President Theodore Roosevelt famously said, quote, "We have but one flag. We must also learn one language, and that language is English." Unquote. And I have mentioned on this show previously that I have asked a legislator to introduce a bill in the next upcoming legislative session to make English the official language of the state of Vermont, as 32 other U.S. states have done. So I'm hoping that next session you will support that effort. And when we have people who come to this land from foreign countries, if they come here legally, we certainly welcome them. And it is very important that they learn our native language so that they can relate with us and be able to become employed in an English-speaking business and just understand what our country is all about. They can understand our Constitution and why understanding why they really wanted to come here. So that's the first thing I wanted to share. The next is, there's an important letter that the governor sent today, I believe, June 10th. Was that yesterday?
Yes, it was.
That was yesterday. This letter is from the office of the governor to the Honorable John Bloomer, Jr., the Secretary of the Vermont Senate. Dear Secretary Bloomer, pursuant to Chapter 2, Section 11 of the Vermont Constitution, I am returning S-169, an act relating to firearms procedures, without my signature in the time permitted by the Constitution because of my objections described herein. Last year, I called for and signed a package of historic gun safety reforms because I believe they make schools, communities, families, and individuals safer, while upholding Vermonters' constitutional rights. Over the last year, among other gun safety measures, we have established mandatory background check requirements, extreme risk protection orders giving families tools to remove guns from those who may harm themselves or others, the ability of law enforcement to remove firearms from those accused of domestic violence, and finally, requirements increasing the age to buy a firearm from 18 to 21. With these measures in place, we must now prioritize strategies that address the underlying causes of violence and suicide. I do not believe S-169 addresses these areas. Moving forward, I ask the legislature to work with me to strengthen our mental health system, reduce adverse childhood experiences, combat addiction, and provide every Vermonter with hope and economic opportunity. Sincerely, Philip B. Scott, Governor. So we did get one gun bill signed that makes many of us happy, even though there were many others that we were not happy with. But with that, folks, I'd like to introduce my guest, Guy Page.
Hi, Linda.
Guy, welcome back.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, always glad to have you. You have something you want to say about that?
I do. If I'm not mistaken, I think you meant to say that we're glad that he vetoed it because he vetoed that bill.
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't clarify that, perhaps.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, the other thing is I noticed that there can't be a veto session. Now that the legislature is adjourned, they can't come back to do a veto override
in the next session.
Well, that's what I'm not sure about. You were a legislator, maybe you know. When the governor vetoes something in the first year of a session, can they in January come back and say, okay, we're going to try to override it?
I'll be honest with you, it's been many years since I served down there, and I don't recall specifically. Something tells me that they might be able to do that. If there's a legislator watching the show, let one of us know.
Now, I do know that the bill passed in the House by an 82 to 58 vote, so it would be really, really hard for the House to find another 18 votes or so to override that veto, which is what they would need.
You said 82.
I think the number was 82 to 58. Something very, very close to that.
Okay.
And the governor, there were 58 votes against that bill, so somehow they would have to take off 9 votes or so to get to the point where they need to. So what I'm saying is, I think that would be, even if they are able to in the next session, according to the rules, to veto that bill, I think they're going to have it'll be a hard thing for them to do. I'm not sure they have the votes.
Well, that's going to be an interesting thing to watch in the next session. There isn't, to be frank with you and with the viewers, there isn't a whole lot that's going on in the legislature these days that makes me happy, because the folks who are in charge down there, who have the majority votes, are not in accord with my way of thinking and belief system. And I'm hoping that things can change going forward, perhaps not a big change, a huge change to get control, but certainly a significant increase in the number of Republicans and constitutionalists and so forth to run and win. I see things changing.
I do too.
You do?
Yes, I do.
I see people realizing that they can't afford to sit back and just let things happen.
Right. That
things are going to go perhaps against the way that you would have them go, and the way that Vermont went for the first 150 years of our state was totally Republican. But I think we can get back there. I'm really excited to see some of the things that are going on. And I received an email today from a handful of people who are working on projects and getting people together. And I'm involved in a couple of things.
Good.
And so, by the way, next month, we have another Liberty Camp for students.
Oh, good.
3 mornings, July 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And Rob Roper is going to be the presenter again. We have a wonderful program. Wonderful program. The one they did last year in Rutland, the students were so excited. They wondered, when can we come back? So that's a good sign.
Where is it going to be this year?
It's going to be at the Church of the Rock. They're kind enough to let
right
us.
here in St. Albans.
Right here in St. Albans, yeah.
Wow.
We have some students coming from South Burlington even.
The 23rd through the 25th?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, in the morning.
Church, and does it cost anything?
No, it's free.
Wow.
Some of the moms are agreeing to, or offering to bring some refreshments.
Good.
I asked for healthy refreshments and beverages. And so it's a lot of work, but I believe it's worth it because our country's worth it and our youth are worth it.
That's right.
And so we do what we can when we can, right? I know you do a lot. I haven't even had you tell people what you do, Guy.
Okay.
I'm so busy talking. So why don't you share with the audience what it is you do?
Oh, sure. Well, I am the, first of all, I'm a native Vermonter.
Good.
And I worked in the St. Albans Messenger back in the 1980s as a reporter. So it's always fun to come back up here
I didn't
again.
remember that.
Yeah. Well, you were in Essex Junction at the time.
Yes, I was.
Yeah. That's right. So I was a reporter. I covered Swanton and Highgate and a lot of two fascinating towns. But also covered a lot of things in St. Albans proper. And
Okay.
it was a good 2 or 3 years.
Oh, good.
And since then, I've been a journalist and also a lobbyist, which I believe is where we met down at the Statehouse. And I'm now back into the journalism world. I'm publishing a newspaper, a brand new newspaper, which is to say it's on newsprint paper.
I see that.
And it's called the Chronicle of the Vermont Statehouse.
Fantastic.
And what it is, very simply, is I cover the news and the people and the community of the Vermont Statehouse.
Well, people need to know more about that.
That's right.
People who haven't served down there or worked down there probably don't have a clear understanding of how things work and what's going on. Yep. So this is a great tool. I know Mariana Gamache took a pile of them, and I'm hoping that she's been distributing them around Franklin County.
Franklin County has a very strong delegation of legislators, and they are good people, and they're very responsive to the communities. And I can say that if what you want is someone who's watching your wallet and to keep the spending down and to promote jobs and sort of good family values, boy, the people up here in Franklin County, those who have been around a long time and those who are newcomers, they're doing a very good job.
Well, I agree with you, and I believe that that's what the people want. They want to be represented.
That's right.
For who they are and what they're looking for from someone who's going to be their representative. And yes, we have a lot of hardworking, dedicated people from Franklin County serving in the legislature. I really feel that it can be extremely frustrating when you're in the minority down there and you have strong beliefs that you feel need to be implemented, and you don't have the manpower down there to do it. So that's one of the things we can do to help our legislators is to get more Republicans elected and have them have, a bigger support system.
In fact, some of the legislators who have been elected in Franklin County are working with other candidates and other legislators from around the state saying, here's how we did it. Here's how we got elected. Here's some tips. And so in a lot of ways, some of the hope that people have for a more balanced legislature is coming out of Franklin County.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah. We all have our own, we're pretty much individuals. You know what I'm saying? People who can organize and plan and decide how we want our campaign to work, so to speak.
Right.
And it's not all the same.
That's right.
Everybody has their own ideas about what works for them. I know I had my way of doing things when I was a representative from Essex Junction, and it worked like a charm. I had such a team working with me. When they approached me and asked me if I would run, I said on one condition.
What was that?
That we put a team together.
Oh, okay.
A committee together. They were absolutely phenomenal.
Wow.
And many of them knew people in the community that I didn't know.
That's so important.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
We had signs everywhere.
So a good team.
A good team.
Yes. So I find I'm now that I'm putting out this paper, I'm thinking a lot more. I haven't told anyone this, but last night I actually had a dream about a Franklin County legislator.
Really?
A former Franklin County legislator. It was, I don't know if Carolyn Brannigan, Senator Brannigan is listening or watching, but I was in the well of the Statehouse as a reporter. This is the dream, okay, everyone? This is just a dream. And she's being interviewed or she's on the stand, and someone is questioning her and really giving her a hard time, saying, "You're not fit to be in office, and you shouldn't be this," and was really giving her a hard time.
In the well of the House?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. And I'm, as often happens in a dream, when you don't have what you need, I'm a reporter, and I didn't have a notebook, and I didn't have a pen, and I didn't have a camera. So I had to go running back to where it was, and by the time I got back, all the fun was over.
But this never really happened.
This never really happened.
This is just your dream.
This is just a dream. But so I do find though that I'm thinking a lot about this, and one of the things that I noticed with this last session, there were two bills that combined had 23 different roll calls. 23 roll calls in the House and in the Senate. That's a lot of roll calls. The one with the least amount, 7 roll calls, was what you just mentioned, S-169, the gun bill. The gun control bill was really what that was.
I know.
The people who were saying, well, this is all about trying to limit suicide, all the numbers say, no, this isn't, there really is not a significant impact. The governor's right. There's not a significant connection between people going out and buying guns and suicide. And I think even the people in the building knew that, and I can tell you that there is a strong push in the legislature, and it comes from other places, that sort of anything having to do with controlling firearms possession is, for some people, is a good thing. Any reason is a good thing. So really, this is about how can we limit Vermonters' access to firearms, which is really strange because our Constitution. So I'm glad you're having people study the Constitution, Linda. Our Constitution is just really, really clear that you shall not infringe. In fact, Vermont's Constitution on firearms is even stronger.
Is it?
Much stronger. It says that it isn't just about a well-armed militia, which the federal Constitution says. It says, for self-defense and personal use, people's rights to bear arms shall not be infringed.
Yes. Well, the founders of this country knew that there could come a time when government would become too overbearing and controlling, and we are there. We have been there for some time. And there are people who want to take advantage of that by controlling our right to guns. And what they do is it's inch by inch. They take a little bit from you this year, and next year they take a little bit more until you're going, what happened?
And that is what I try to impress on people, is that the idea that the progressive agenda, it will never stop.
Nope.
They will never be satisfied until they reach some place that we just won't recognize. We think, well, okay, that makes sense. And then next year, well, it's something else. And then it's something else.
It's the camel's nose under the tent, time after time, until they get what they want and take away one more right. We are a nation of empowered individuals under our Constitution. That's what the founders wanted for us.
That's right.
They had enough of King George III in Great Britain, where they felt they didn't have any powers as individuals or even rights, and including religion. And so think what they did. They packed up what they could and they got onto a boat and they crossed the ocean, not even knowing exactly, with no home to arrive at, no garden for your food. What courage. They had to have been so distressed to be in a place where they were willing to do that. And they weren't going to allow that to happen in this country all over again. So that's why they formed the kind of document that they did.
That's right.
And now it's our job as empowered citizens to make sure that we stand up to preserve and protect those rights for not only for ourselves, but for our children and grandchildren. And if our children are not learning about the founding documents and what they mean for their lives, then they're the future, and they're not going to stand up to protect.
Right.
And we older folks who learned in school about U.S. history and what our founding documents were all about, and how fortunate we are to have opportunities and rights, that we have known to stand up. But now many of us are complacent, and the middle level, like you have the older folks like myself, and then you have the parents, and then you have the children. And the parents are busy trying to work and, keep a family together, whatever. And the kids are, if the children, I don't like to call them kids, but it happens. The children, we need to make sure that the children are learning what they need to know. And not about Islam, not about globalism, not about, you can learn in geography and history about, the makeup of the globe and so forth.
Right.
But what they really need to know is the heart of this country.
That's right.
And they don't need to know about all the other nations, and what they're about until they get older. Then they can learn.
Well, I can tell you the progressive agenda is not interested in telling the story of the unique American experience.
Oh no, they want to do away with it.
It's referred to. I was sitting at a meeting of the Progressive Caucus, and they had just voted on the getting rid of Columbus Day in favor of Indigenous Peoples Day, and pretty much everyone, by the way, everyone said, we're on board with the idea of honoring our Indigenous peoples, because they are part of the American story as well, and maybe a forgotten part, as this part of the state knows quite well. But the idea of just forgetting about Columbus Day set a lot of people off. But one of the fellows said, all that stuff about the American history, it's all just a myth anyway.
I wish I'd been there.
I said, oh man. I'm not sure I'd be calling it a myth. And you mentioned about gun control. I wanted to say one last thing.
Sure.
Talk about history, American history. We all know that once Fidel Castro took over Cuba, the idea of private gun ownership went away real fast, right? Did you know, Linda, that the way he trained his revolutionaries to fire guns was they found these private gun clubs, just the way all around Vermont you'll get rod and gun clubs and places where you can go shoot skeet and firing
ranges.
Yes, firing ranges.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, and Castro. It was through what at the time was the free exercise of people to get together and shoot guns together. That's how he trained his revolutionaries.
Wow.
And then, of course, took it all away once he got in power.
Sure.
And Admiral Yamamoto, who engineered the Pearl Harbor attack in 1941, one of the Army generals said, Admiral, I think we should invade the west coast of the United States. We should invade the United States. And Admiral Yamamoto said, General, that's a terrible idea because every American has a gun, and behind every fence and every tree, there will be an American shooting at our soldiers.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Right.
If you're going to invade us, watch out below.
Yeah.
But when you have people within our country whose goal is to disarm the American citizen, that is how another way that they gain control of the people is to weaken us. And then government can come marching into your house or whatever, and you have no way of stopping it. There are globalists who despise this country. They our Constitution is in their way because it empowers the people.
Right.
And so we have to protect that document.
That's right.
And through the generations, as I said before. And
I would add to that, though, Linda, it isn't just the document. Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia said, sure, the document is so important and we must protect it, but the institutions around it, of government, the media, the schools, they need to uphold and respect the Constitution, because if they don't, pretty soon you're like these communist countries that have got wonderful constitutions that everyone ignores.
yes,
And we
that's
can't.
true.
That's why I've been so encouraged by seeing the appointment of Supreme Court justices like Kavanaugh and the others who, whatever else they are, they're very strict constitutionalists.
And they need to be, that's their job.
Yes.
To uphold the United States Constitution.
One would think.
One should know.
Yes, that's right.
So, yes, I agree with you. We have the most recent appointees to the Supreme Court. It's very unhappy for the Democrats who don't like that. But the Republicans got a couple of good people in there, and thank you, President Trump.
When people call him, Bernie Sanders a few days ago called him a pathological liar or something like that, and I thought, I seem to remember candidate Trump saying, I will appoint constitutionalist, anti-abortion judges to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
And unlike almost every other Republican president who kind of didn't, even though they promised, he actually kept that promise. He did not, and perhaps one of the most important promises that he has made, he did not lie. He kept that promise.
Promises
kept.
made, promises kept.
Maybe that's really what bothers him.
Of course.
Not because he's a liar, because he keeps his promises.
He does what he says he's going to do. And on another topic, I cannot for the life of me, well, I guess I can understand, but it breaks my heart to see the Democrats who have the majority in Congress, in the House at least, that they will not secure our border.
Isn't that something?
This is a separate nation. We are not, just because our borders touch another country's border, doesn't mean we're all one nation. We are separate nations. sovereign nations.
Yeah.
And we have a right. 50 countries around the world have borders, have fences or walls or whatever.
Right.
And we are called all kinds of names because, you know, we don't want to take in everybody from the world who wants to come here.
Right.
We need people to come here who respect this nation, who will respect our people and respect our laws, which means come legally.
Right.
We have a big heart, but we're not stupid.
Right. Right. I completely agree. I think we need immigrants. We need people. We've got a strong economy. We need people to come and work, but we need a process by which they are coming here legally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they're an asset to our nation.
Yes.
And they learn our language and they assimilate into our country.
Right.
And they become a positive addition
Right.
to what we are as a nation.
Yeah.
And we all want that. But we can't assimilate hundreds of thousands of people bombarding our border.
And who are here, come in illegally, and then they know they're here illegally, and so they can't work within the system. And even if they could, they maybe wouldn't want to because it would mean they would be identified. And they said only 10% of people seeking asylum show up for their hearings. That just came out today.
Yeah, they're released into the country.
Right.
And then how do we know? Are they drug pushers? Are they MS-13 members? What
Right.
Who are they?
And most of them, I'm sure, Linda, most of them aren't. They're just people like you and me who want a better life, and I appreciate that.
Yes.
But we've got to, here on our side of the border, we got to get our act together so that doesn't happen.
Big time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Statehouse, back to the Statehouse.
Sure.
86 bills were passed out of the legislature?
That's right. 86, yeah.
Okay. And so they're actually now law?
Well, not all of them are law. About half of them now have been signed by the governor.
Okay.
Only one veto so far, the one that you just mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
and none to date have passed into law without his signature.
Mm-hmm.
They're given, I think it's a month to actually sign it.
Yeah, so many weeks. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he so far has either signed or vetoed as they've come up.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, here we have in the latest issue of the paper all the bills that passed. And
what a great resource.
Well, thank you. One of the things I tried to do is when you go on the state website, the names of the bills, it doesn't often really tell you very much. So I looked at all the bills and I read up on them and I tried to give them names that actually tell you what the bill was all about.
Well, that's really helpful to many who don't follow. I mean, I wouldn't know about all those bills by the number, certainly, without looking it up. And then that's not always so easy because I got on today to look up a bill. Yeah, but this is a great resource for the folks out there who don't have time to go down to legislature or even call our local legislators.
Right.
But who have this resource. They can look it up online and find out what's going on down there.
That's right. And
You have some articles too?
Oh, I do. I thought one of the most interesting, and I only really found out about it till after the session adjourned, the transportation bill. That's the bill that has all the money to do the roads and anything having to do with transportation.
Roads and bridges.
Right. Except this year, the chairman was a Burlington representative who does not own a car, who is a huge supporter of alternative transportation due to climate change.
Don't
you
get
may
me
remember.
go-
I know. Climate change.
No.
Kurt McCormack, who you may have served with. I think he might have been in
I don't
Rutland
remember
at the time.
No.
So So anyway, he replaced Pat Brennan, who drove the biggest pickup truck in the legislature, to a fellow who rides a bike and takes a bus. And not surprisingly, the transportation budget and the bill really reflected his priorities. For example, they approved $2.65 million to build and design 9 new park and ride facilities. You know, like the interstates, you can park and commuter, nine of those, and also 77 different bike and pedestrian construction, design, and right-of-way projects. That's another $19 million.
How many people actually use those walk and bicycle
I don't
paths,
know.
whatever?
And that's a good question. I know I live on the Barrie Montpelier Road, and they put in a bike lane. And sometimes, I got to say, I decide to get on my bike and ride into the Statehouse. It's 3 miles. And that's kind of nice sometimes. But it also, there's no doubt there's a lot of money that goes into that too.
Into creating the lane.
Yes, yeah. And all these projects. And that's money that, I imagine some of it is federal money. It's federal, state, and also this, the Volkswagen settlement, which is when Volkswagen was found to have sort of cooked its books on its climate emissions, the state's attorneys all got together, the state's attorneys from around the country all got together and sued them, and Vermont got many millions of dollars out of that. And they took that money, and one of the things they did with it was they bought, we will be now having 4 new electric buses, 2 of them in Burlington and 2 of them in Barrie Montpelier. Okay, another thing is.
So we're paying for those.
Well, the Volkswagen settlement money, which the state can use at its own discretion. That's where a lot of that money is going, into those electric buses. Yes, because again, it's the idea that Vermont needs to be, quote unquote, a leader in climate change and reducing our carbon emissions, and transportation is the big driver of that.
Vermont has the lowest carbon output in the country.
Stop making sense, Linda. I know.
Where did the logic go? Where did the common sense go? We're spending money on things that are not necessary when we have how much, $3 billion or something that we're in arrears on for the
our pension programs,
the pension,
something like that,
and healthcare, isn't it?
Right.
Pensions and healthcare for state
terrible.
workers and teachers.
Yep.
That's not good.
Right. There's other things.
These folks never found a program that they didn't want to spend our money on.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and especially you could argue, everyone agrees transportation money. Everyone wants roads that don't have potholes in them.
Oh, yeah.
And there's actually a very strong climate argument to be made for good roads, because a lot of carbon emissions go into making a car, into building a car. And if your car hits so many potholes that pretty soon something breaks and you have to get a new one, then that's bad for carbon emissions. I mean, people don't think about these things, but if you can't run your car for a long time, then you have to buy a newer car or get a newer car, and that means a lot of upfront carbon emissions that went into making that car.
There are?
Oh yeah, it's like 15 to 20% of the life cycle of a car is in the actual construction of it. You think about it; it isn't politically correct wood elves who are out there making our Volvos and our Buicks. Those are plants. Plants with smokestacks, and you got to mine the materials. It's a huge carbon intensive deal to build a car. So anyway,
Well-
that's just one little angle. But other transportation things, Linda, they decided they needed to spend 17% more money on public transportation.
For whom?
For the buses, like the CCTA and what's not CCTA, but Green Mountain Transit.
Used to be CCTA.
Yes, they merged with the people in Washington County, and it's now GMTA, I think, Green Mountain Transport Authority. Spending 11% more on rail travel, $8 million more for Amtrak, and you'll be glad to hear, Linda, the Rutland to Burlington passenger service line, $5 million to upgrade the infrastructure for the passenger service between Rutland and Burlington.
For rail?
For rail, yes.
Oh, that excites me.
Yeah, I thought.
Yeah, right.
And this is another good one. The bill will also help fund the transformation of the state vehicle fleet, state cars, state plates, to 50% hybrid or plug-in electric.
Oh my God.
There's now only 54 of the 734 cars are fit that description. Within a few years, it's going to be half. I don't think the snowplows. I think they're going to keep
You
the
don't
snowplows.
think so?
But just the cars and stuff, and who knows? Maybe
Who's
the governor's
making all the
Tahoe.
money off of this?
Wow, that's such a good question.
Who's pushing this?
The
The environmentalists.
Oh yes, this is the climate
But
caucus.
that's a hoax.
People.
The hoax master was Al Gore. He's made billions of dollars off of this hoax. Yeah, there are a few things that maybe could be changed. Big smokestacks. We don't have huge manufacturing plants in Vermont. Okay, we're spending money on things that are not really needed.
Right.
But making these environmentalists, maybe if we got a few more Republicans down there, we wouldn't be spending. Maybe we'd be paying down our debt, our unfunded, responsibilities.
That's right.
Instead of
spending more money.
Who's
on
riding
this
the
sort of thing.
trains from Rutland to Burlington?
I think there used to be some commuter rail there. No one rode it very much. But in addition to that one, there's going to be a study of get this, Barrie to Montpelier commuter rail.
Yeah, that's Blittersdorf, right?
That's exactly who it is.
Yeah.
Yes, because there are so many people in Barrie who want to take a train to Montpelier. I live in that neighborhood, and I can tell you.
How many miles?
No.
How many miles?
It's, I don't know, 10 miles or so.
Oh, yeah, we must spend.
They already have 3 bus lines. Oh, it's like, well, really? Is that all necessary?
I can't stand it.
Yeah. So anyway, and another $2 million for subsidizing purchases of plug-in electric vehicles and repairing them also. You can get a deal on repairing them.
Am I subsidizing electric cars?
One way or another, yeah, you kind of are.
Yeah.
Because that money could be going to make the roads better or a tax refund or something.
Don't more people use the roads than need a plug-in station?
Yes, that's very true. Yeah.
So who are we making happy? Okay, keep going.
We're making the people who are so focused on that climate is. I mean, I've got a friend of mine who's a Sierra Club environmentalist who says, look, in 12 years, we're not going to be able to turn this train around anymore.
Oh, wait, is that Ocasio?
No.
12 years?
Yeah, actually, he's talking about the Green New Deal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We're not going to be around in 12 years. Scare the kids, why don't you?
Right.
Frighten them so that they'll buy into your Green New Deal, which is a fiasco. It is nonsense.
It's one thing you got to notice who wins here. One group that definitely wins is big government, because only big government. And when you read Bill McKibben's books on climate change, he's really clear. Private enterprise is never going to solve the climate problem. Climate problem is going to ruin the world. So only aggressive governments, big governments taking on the evil capitalists, only they can solve it. So really, it's like handing government power and money in quantities undreamed of because of this climate stuff.
Capitalism.
Yes.
Okay?
Bad word, Linda.
No, it's a great word.
I know it is.
I know. And the thing is, it's either capitalism or socialism through government control of your life.
Correct.
Capitalism, for the people who don't know, is when you can set up a business. And maybe you work your fanny off 20 hours a day and borrow money to get your business started, so you have debt. But you're providing a needed service or product, you're hiring people, and you're maybe making contributions to people who need it or organizations. That's private capitalism for the individual. It's a beautiful thing in our country.
Yes, it works quite well.
That people can work hard and establish a business of some sort, whether it's a farm, but now government's into farms, and government gets its nasty fingers into everything and makes it more and more difficult for the capitalist, the private enterprise person who takes a risk, works their fanny off, establishes a business, provides goods and services for the people and jobs, and then they get penalized and ostracized and all kinds of things, and they are what makes this country great. One of the things that makes the country great. And so what if they make a lot of money? They earned it. And when did the poor start giving to all kinds of food shelves and everything? People who need money. It's the people who have had the opportunity, taken the risk, worked really hard, and accomplished something where they gained some wealth. I say more power to you.
Sure.
Instead, now they're the evil people because they're wealthy. Okay?
Yeah. It doesn't make sense, and it's certainly not fair, and it punishes people who have played by the rules and treated other people well. Because the only way you really succeed in business is if you treat other people well.
Absolutely.
If you make them happy. Because if you don't make them happy, they don't buy your product.
That's right. And when you were speaking, Guy, about all the emissions and transportation and everything, excuse me, I cannot get over the huge trucks, big transport trucks that are up in this area. Huge, and right on going up and down our main street.
Right.
That didn't used to be.
I remember when I was covering Swanton, there was a sign that said, no tractor trailer trucks going through town. And I think there was definitely some concern that with these, and there was also a wood chip. Do they still have the wood chip depot up in Swanton?
I do not know.
Because I remember when that caught on fire, that was pretty interesting. Ooh. Yeah. But there are a lot of trucks going to and from the wood chips for the Burlington wood chip.
Well, I know that there's been discussion in St. Albans about getting those huge transport trucks off of the main road and to have an alternate road for them down.
Like a bypass.
Yeah, Federal Street or something. I don't know. I don't know how much better that would be. Yeah. But I think something needs to be done about it.
Yeah, that is a real problem. Because tractor trailers, I'm sorry, but they're not made for Main Street.
No.
I was in Montpelier, and some poor fellow was trying to back his tractor trailer into a tiny alley.
Oh, boy.
And totally stopped traffic at State and Main for 15 minutes. I'm thinking, pal, you got to have a better way of doing it than what you're doing.
Yeah, well, it didn't have the right area to be trying to do that. I'm trying to see here. One of the things that one thing I want to say, get us out of the United Nations.
Why?
Why?
Yes.
Well, it's costing us, the American people, between our 22% contribution to their basic budget
Right.
and UNESCO and a lot of the other programs,
Yes.
we're a big contributor, $8 billion a year.
Wow.
We could put that into the wall or the border.
That's
The border wall.
interesting.
$8 billion a year. They're anti-American. They want to control all of our land. They want to control all of the oceans. They have a treaty of the seas. They have a treaty of the child, which essentially pretty much takes away the power of parents to take care of their children. Not that we don't have some big problems today with some households who are not meeting the good needs of their children, but that's not the majority, thankfully.
And
there are some really good parents and families out there, for sure.
I'm not sure we need the United Nations to be telling us how to be parents.
Well, no, they vote against us all the time
They do.
because we're standing in their way, okay? So
And in Israel's way.
absolutely.
They're
anti-Israel.
They are so anti-Israel.
And anti the United
Yeah.
States.
When we talk about walls, Israel actually built a wall, and suddenly, oh, son of a gun, all those, a lot of the terrorists stopped, and the terrorists are now building tunnels like 100 feet under the ground.
My.
And they found one, and it was built 126 feet under the ground with, explosives and stuff, and they found it. So, but if they didn't have that wall, they wouldn't need those tunnels, and they just become a tunnels.
Wow. Well, there's one other thing at the national level that I wanted to quickly mention, and that is, folks, contact our 2 U.S. senators, Bernie Sanders and Leahy, Senator Leahy, and Peter Welch, and tell them you want them to stop taxing our Social Security. Seniors were taxed $30 billion on Social Security benefits last year alone. We paid taxes when we earned that money and paid into Social Security out of our pay during our working years. That money was taxed. Now,
That's right.
we get a Social Security check in the mail, which we earned, and they're taxing that money.
Right.
So that Social Security money that we earn is double taxed, and it has to stop.
Doesn't the Vermont tax it too?
I think so, yes.
I think they do.
Vermont does. Not all states do.
Right.
But I wanted to quickly, if you have a pen and paper, where is it? I wanted to give you the Washington, D.C. phone number for Patrick Leahy. It's 202-224-4242. I'll give it again, 202-224-4242. And the number for Senator Sanders, 202-224, the same, they're both the same, except for the last extension, 5141 for Senator Sanders. And for Representative Welch, 202-225-4115. Give their office a call. All you have to do is say your name and that you're from Vermont and you would like to leave a message for the senator or the representative, and you want to, in no uncertain terms, tell them that they need to stop taxing our Social Security benefits.
Yeah. Social Security benefits. Okay.
And they are earned, folks.
That's right.
They're not a, what do you call it?
Not an entitlement that someone else is
Entitlement.
paying for.
Thank you.
It's your money to begin with.
Exactly.
That was the point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anything else that you really wanted to make sure? We have
Sure.
about 6 minutes.
Okay, you mentioned the Church of the Rock up here.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people from the Church of the Rock went to an interesting meeting a few weeks ago. Franklin Graham,
Yes.
Billy Graham's son, came to Essex Junction, to your old stomping grounds, and there were 3,400 people there, and it was a rainy Tuesday night.
Exactly.
I didn't go. My son went. Some
I
of my
went.
friends. Oh, you did?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
And a few days later, Senator Bernie Sanders held his kickoff meeting, the beginning of his campaign, at the Statehouse on a beautiful Saturday afternoon in the center of the state of Vermont, in a big green where everyone knows to come to. And he got maybe 1,500 people there. Mm-hmm. Franklin Graham, in the most supposedly this secular state, 3,400 on a cold Tuesday night. Bernie Sanders got 1,500, which does make me think, and that even those two men are really very similar in some ways, and like their personalities. They're both men with a mission. They're both kind of blunt. They've both been accused of religious
Transgressions,
discrimination, or whatever. But that in Vermont, Franklin Graham got a crowd twice the size of Bernie Sanders. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what exactly to make of that, except that maybe some of the stories we tell ourselves aren't always completely true.
Well, there's a lot of fake news out there. There are people who are telling stories who want the people to think that they're true. Mm-hmm. That this is no good anymore, that people don't care about that anymore. Right. And people who hear those things, if they don't know any better, believe it.
Right.
And so that's how they get a message out that's false.
Right.
But it sets tone that people start believing. Yep. So, good stuff. Let me see here. Oh, we only have like 4 minutes left. Okay. There's something about bias-free policing, including not operating with ICE, immigration and citizenship, interest in illegal immigrants. A 20-person working group will investigate racial, ethnic, social, and identity bias in local Vermont schools. Right. Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. That was the very first bill that was passed and signed.
What the heck? Who believes this?
People who believe that Vermont is a racist state.
People who are pushing it.
We've got to root out anti-transgender things, racial bias, sexism, and all these other things and the place to do that is in the schools. Where
the kids are vulnerable.
Right.
Where they don't know any better, their minds are being brainwashed.
It is definitely hopefully no one listening here is okay with the idea of being racist. We're all against that.
Of course.
And we all want tolerance and acceptance, no bullying. This is all wrong.
It's when you do the wrong thing. If you do a transgression against another person, or you kill somebody or whatever, we don't like that, okay? But it's not based on your skin color or your religion or anything like that.
Well, another interesting thing about that, go ahead.
1 minute.
The study group said they also want to look at religious bigotry, especially anti-Semitism and anti-Islam. It does not mention, which is okay. I don't want. it did not. It excluded.
Because they don't want to include Christianity in anything.
I just thought that was strange.
Get rid of God in the pledge, get rid of God in God Bless America. You know, they're all about getting rid of God. And folks, we have to fight back. It is long past time, and I'm urging you to stand up and fight back. Our children deserve better, and so do we. Period. Amen.
You got it.
Okay. Hey, thanks a lot for coming on. There's so much more. I'll have to have you back.
That'd be fun.
Because we have so much more to cover. Thank you for doing the Chronicle.
Chronicle of Vermont Statehouse.
And where will folks get that?
I can send it to them if they contact me. They can Google us, just Google Chronicle of Vermont Statehouse. It should come up.
Chronicle at Vermont Statehouse.
Yep.
Okay.
And we can also email, if you can get us your email address, we can send you a online version.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that's a great resource, folks. If you don't know what's going on in Montpelier and around the state, that's the way to find out. Chronicle at Vermont Statehouse. Guy Page, thank you so much for making the trip. Always good to have you here.
You bet.
Folks, it's time to go. I'll see you again next week. Have a great week ahead. Good night.